What's up, AfterBuzzers, and welcome to the Handmaid's Tale. Today we're talking about episode 8, Jezebels, and oh my goodness, so much to talk about.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
This feels so sexy with this song, though. You're like, I feel sexy and dirty.
Here we go.
Not in the good way. I don't feel dirty and I feel dirty and clean. Like I should scour my skin. Like what? Gross.
Down the rabbit hole of sickness.
Ugh.
That's what it is.
Well, welcome to the Handmaid's Tale after show. We're talking about episode 8, Jezebels. My name is Kari Lane. You can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's Karidlane. And I'm joined by my lovely ladies.
I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique and every week at blackgirlnerds.com. Every Wednesday at Schmoes Know.
Hi everyone, Veronica Bariga here. I'm online at Veronica B, the letter B, online, and also on my website, veronicabonline.com.
Sweet. So, initial thoughts, because you were saying a lot right before, Joelle.
Look, he took this from like an uncomfortable agreement to like prostituting her without having sold her. Like the possession ownership details become much more defined in this episode, and it skeeves me out so bad, particularly in our last episodes when we realized, okay, so now we're about to enter a sex slave trade. Awful. And now like okay, so then in the last couple episodes we've fallen so in love with like these characters. Like they're much more gray than I initially thought, and you can see like where good intentions turned into like bad actions and all of these things. And here you're just back to being that skeevy awful person. I was mad at almost everyone this episode. It was awful.
It was awful but captivating. This to me was the most honest, realist episode that they've done so far, because they sort of like didn't hold back, and they were like, this is what a fundamentalist society is. This is what it leads to. This is the sickness that it breeds. It really, for me, it was so honest, and the hypocrisy with all the men, every single one of them. These
single one.
Damn hypocrites.
When
it's just appalling. Sorry.
No. We'll get to her storyline when we get to it, but I just wanted to say at the beginning of this, so way back on episode 1, when we're like, Moira disappears, and like you were like, no, she has to come back. She's a big character. I'm sitting over here going, she comes back later.
Just wait.
Because I was thinking, I knew this scene, and this is a very crazy scene in the book as well, and it's actually even worse. Some of the stuff I'll point out where some of the things where it's little things, but there's still like a bigger difference.
Entirely.
But let's get right into it. We have Offred and Nick, and I like that she points out she's having sex because it feels good. I know Adrian would be all like for that.
The complication in that scene, though, of her being like, she's degrading herself for doing something that feels good, and that was heartbreaking.
She's remembering Luke, so then she's like, oh, now I feel like I'm cheating. Like, she didn't feel like it so much before.
I think it's even beyond Luke. This idea that women are not allowed to be sexually gratified. This idea that women are not supposed to do, like, step outside of the rules and the boundaries. And she does that, and, like, I'm sure if and when Luke and you are reunited, like, the fact that you took a couple of hours to yourself to try to find pleasure in this hellhole that you live. Like, who could possibly be like, you cheated? That
not at all.
Enter anyone's mind. And so the fact that where she's starting to see herself, and we talked about this past couple episodes where she's slowly where she's assimilating now. And she's getting into a slave mindset of like, this is where I belong and this is what I have to do. It's just terribly sad. The show makes me sad, but it's as you say, very captivating.
The thing with Nick and her, for me, was it wasn't even just a physical connection that she needed. She's so lonely, you want an emotional connection, and whether it's deep or not, you just want to connect with another human being emotionally.
When she says, I want to...
Ooh, and even be alone, though. To get privacy, and even in that place, she gets privacy in a way.
And she says that she wants to memorize the details of him, and this idea that she was like, because I couldn't do it with Luke, she's completely given up. Like, I was not here last week. That letter crushed everyone, right? Everyone was in a heap. Okay, good. I love you so much. Save Hannah. Oh my God, my heart. I can't. She's given up, and that it's heartbreaking to watch somebody who we've seen June be so strong. So it's frustrating a little.
Oh yeah. Then we get Nick's backstory, which is interesting because that does not happen in the book at all.
Oh, wow.
Fascinating.
This show is about the show, this after show, but it is based on a book. So if you guys are new to us, we do talk about it a little bit. Because it's all told from her point of view. Nick never tells her anything, like never says the name, you never get his backstory.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see it, and it's interesting because we get the career counseling place called Worthy Path.
Oh boy.
I was like, oh man. And it was interesting how he knew the information of like, well, that's not in the Bible. That little conversation was like, oh, interesting, Nick.
GGB asked if he's the only one who doesn't like Nick.
I hate Nick.
Okay, so you're not. You're not the only one. She hates him. I don't.
yeah.
Why do you hate him?
No, I didn't start off that way. I had high hopes for them,
Sure.
and I thought he was a decent human being. But the more that we get to know his backstory, especially in this episode, he's kind of a coward. He's a big-time coward to me.
Coward or survivalist? Because I see
Right.
a lot
I
of
go into
myself
survivalist.
in Nick.
Fair
Nick
enough,
is quiet and he's mindful.
Very
He
observant.
and he plays everyone in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Even-handedly. He doesn't screw anyone over. He doesn't sell anyone up the river. He just looks at the situation, plays cards, and where will Nick be the safest?
Yeah.
That's where I would like to be. Mm-hmm. And to your point, he is a little cowardly.
He comes from a place of privilege. I understand he's trying to survive, but it reminded me of the people here in the U.S. that don't speak against certain things because it doesn't affect them. And so, so it was a place of privilege. Maybe I'm connecting it too much to real life.
No, you're not at all.
But that's how it spoke to me, and I really thought, okay, I'm not saying he needs to start a revolution and, risk his life here, but there are moments where he can speak up against certain things, and he doesn't.
Well, my bigger problem was, I don't want to skip ahead too much. My issue with Nick came in the kitchen conversation at the end.
Okay,
which
we'll get to that, yeah.
Oh, that too.
And if you are watching this live, we do have a live chat going on, so feel free to talk with us. And if you're watching it later, comment down below. Jeanette in the chat says Nick is also surviving, so agrees.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it, but a good point. Dream Queen said, did anybody else get nightmares by Commander Fred's smirks throughout the whole episode?
Props to Rita Moreno, who you guys already know is my favorite. Like, she's just the realest bitch ever. She is, and if you don't follow her on Instagram, correct your mistakes now, because she's the most beautiful Instagram ever. But Rita Moreno shot all the episodes. She also did Beyonce's Lemonade. She shot him like the creepiest vampire villain maybe ever. Like, he's got his shoulders kind of hunched a lot of the time.
Head down.
Yeah, that head down, so he's got that eye light that makes him kind of glow. Even it reminded me of the shot from last episode where the hunter shows up at the cabin and he's got like the dark coal eyes. He's just standing outside of the door. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And also she isolates him in the frame, and so he has so much power. And I'm just like, oh, freaking out of there! It's scary.
Yeah.
Do you think he's a serial rapist? Because that's what I got from this episode. I feel like I don't know if it's pushing too far.
Okay.
But I was like, the last handmaid killed herself. The wife kind of hinted and said that, oh, and what did you think what would happen?
Sure did.
So I'm kind of feeling like he's a predator in a way.
I certainly think that's what he's become from what we've learned of his past and how he used to respect women. He valued his wife's opinion. He wanted to be around her, and now he can only value women when they are actively showing him what he wants to see. When you actively provide him with good things, he's like, oh, you're a good person now, or you're an individual now. He has that line where he's like, well, we're all people, which was just mind-blowing to me this episode, because I was like, so you're aware? So to your point, I think that he's definitely a rapist now.
Yeah.
There can be no division of that. Is he a serial rapist? I don't
think
know.
so. I think he has the power and he abuses it.
Here's the thing: when he's
it's opportunity, because he's not aggressively seeking out other people.
But rape doesn't have to be aggressive.
No, but I mean, it's only within the opportunity he has, or at least maybe I'm taking the word further that he would do it to a lot.
Here's my point. When he's stroking her dog tag on her ear, it's that sense of ownership. I don't think he would ever view himself as a rapist. He's like, well, I own this person, so I do what I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That does not make it right. He's still definitely a rapist. But I think that if the person does not, quote unquote, belong to him, I don't think that he would violate them in that way.
Brianna in the chat says the commander loves power trips.
Sure do. Yeah. He sure do.
So then there is, so back to Nick's story, and the Price is talking about the Society of Profit and Pleasure, which is pretty accurate, and we get introduced to kind of the sons of Jacob in this explanation of this is what we think it is, and I was all, let's go through it because I'm like, oh, this next part. So after she saw Nick, no, my note goes, Commander in her room. Fuck.
Yes.
Because when she's walking back to the room, she's like, oh, okay. And then I was like,
you're not supposed to be in here.
Yeah,
Literally every moment of this scene is terrifying to me. When he pulls out the dress, I'm like, that's contraband. We saw you throw all those out last episode. Why is that here?
Yeah.
And then the heels too. And I'm like, okay. So then I was hopeful. I was like, sexy show in the room. It might make her uncomfortable, but
he calls her my little one.
yeah, again,
And something different tonight. I'm like, oh, it's totally like you're a doll, you're a toy,
Yeah,
you're
the red
property.
lips.
I thought he was gonna.
everything
I thought he was
about
gonna
that.
try to do like he did when he was rubbing his hand up on her thigh when they were having the ceremony. I thought he was like, oh, okay, well now we can have like an intimate night alone. When he was like, okay, now put this thing on, I'm like, that's not her color. That's not what she wears. And you're taking her outside.
Yep.
It's not
Oh my
about her.
gosh.
It's not for her to enjoy. It's for him. Yeah. It's, it's wow.
Veronica, Emily in the chat
Yes.
agrees with you about the commander being a rapist.
Hey, girl. Hey.
And then we have, and then Mr. Henry, does a villain truly see themselves as a villain? Oh yeah, no, absolutely, never they do. They never do. But my random comment too, they addressed shaving in this episode.
That's right. The razor thing.
Because I was like, wait a minute. And if you guys have watched previous episodes, I don't know why, it just kind of bugged me because in the book she comments that I don't shave and it's kind of like a bother. And so in this one they're like, we shave once a month and then and then him shaving her. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm glad they addressed. It's just something in the like. I mean, this is a small detail, but I really like when shows where it's something you've been thinking about, and the show goes, "Yeah, we got you."
No, we
Here
thought about it too.
I'm like, good.
It shows good world building.
Yeah.
And to further our conversation about the commander being, possessive and starting to treat her like a doll, like this is such an intimate act of shaving.
Oh yeah, shaving. Well, because you could die.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but then like.
Well, depending how you cut someone, you could.
You could.
Yeah.
I mean, there are major arteries down there. You nick that ankle and it's over. Nick it. You'd have to cut it. But anyway.
Deliberately just go.
Yeah.
But the presentation of it all.
Oh,
the
yeah.
idea of like, I'll dress you up to what how I want to see you. Like the whole time I'm like, she's going to be cold though. Like that's just that dress is drafty. It looks cold out. She's on the East Coast. It's nighttime. Like, can you give her a little more?
Oh, well,
I was worried.
His line too when he's like, "You remember how to put on makeup?" And I'm like, "Please, any woman who's worn makeup for at least a few years and you don't wear it for a couple,
It's like riding a bike.
that was stupid." And I'm like, and that was creepy as he's watching her and that whole bit. Ugh. So yeah, mini dress and heels because they're going out. Her outfit, I don't remember, they describe it in the book, but I felt it was even more like Vegas showgirly, like a leotard, like even worse, like even smaller. And but I like this version of it, especially the backless. And of course, I'm like, no, your hair's going down, sweetheart. There's no way you're wearing
we
your
were
hair
all
up.
waiting for that.
No way.
What I liked about this dress is it says a lot about the commander and what he's looking for in. I don't want to call it a relationship. Yeah, but what. How he wants to be perceived, basically. Like, if you ever ask a guy to dress you, it tells you a lot about what they're looking for in you.
Right,
and this idea of like the dress is it's classy, but it's sexy and it's sophisticated.
It was a nice dress.
Yeah, no, it's like it has the reminiscence of like a roaring
flapper
20s.
dress.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally got that vibe.
Art Deco kind of style and the beading on it. And I like this idea. I like the way the show explored this side of him. This idea of like, I don't want my wife in the blue dress with the demure kind of very Christian appeal to her. What I want is a woman I can show off.
Yeah.
And even when that happened, when she does get recognized by another man, he's like, but that's mine. And it's just gross.
Oh, hold that moment. I got it. Well, actually, since we're there. So the thing that happened differently in the book is when they get there, he puts a tag on her, like a bracelet or a thing, to show you're my property today. So nobody else will try to like purchase you. And they didn't do that. And I mean, it would have taken the same amount of time as that scene where the guy's like, oh, hey. And the guy's like, no, she's mine.
Yeah.
But I felt it's so creepy in the book of like, I'm putting my marker on you even more so.
This was infinitely more creepy to me because like.
Because somebody else could just get you?
Well, because, if I have a lot of sex worker friends. If you go to certain parties and things, there are different, like, tags, bandanas, whatever, of colors that represent different things to different people.
Okay.
I can understand that from, like, an organizational top-down kind of perspective.
Okay,
like, just to keep things organized. You cannot flirt with this girl. It could cause a war. We're in a precarious situation.
Okay, sure.
And she's already tagged, so I don't know how much more, like,
No, like, if you had, like, if I'm wearing a blue bracelet, a snap-on something.
That's what
that
I'm saying,
means
though.
I'm purchased for tonight. You can't approach me. I'm already somebody else's property.
That's what I'm saying, though. She's already tagged as his property, so
How?
the wristband
With
on
the-
her
with the
ear.
ear.
No, but
Yeah.
he covered that up because that's a Handmaid's thing.
I get it, but what I'm saying is it doesn't seem any more derogatory to me to her personhood.
To do more?
Like,
Oh,
it's
okay.
already happened to her, so this doesn't level her down anymore, and they spent a lot of time and attention on that. I think the idea of...
because they do have the scene of him touching it and covering it. So fair
but
enough,
this guy, like, comes up and rubs it, and
Yeah.
she can't say anything. Like, she literally cannot say anything because will he hit her? Like,
She is his property regardless.
Yeah.
There is no... Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, the guy who flirts with her first, he's like
There's
kind
no
of touching
freedom,
up on her, and
exactly.
she's like, okay, well, this is a stranger, but I cannot defend myself.
Yeah.
And then he comes up to her in the exact same manner. It's like, no, man, I own her. And this is like, it completely washes her out of the situation.
Yeah.
Like, she might as well not even be there. And then
Good
she
point.
gets blamed for it. Like,
that's the worst.
Skeevy.
With
Yep.
Nick, you're referring to?
No.
okay,
The
never
commander,
mind.
when he's like,
Okay. when he blames her
where
for
were
got
you?
it. Okay.
So then, they go through the checkpoints, and tonight you aren't you. That was a creepy line, too.
Yeah.
And the river, when they pass that, when women aren't even allowed past that point, because he's like, wives can't even go here. Because at first I was like, no, it was creepy, because when he drives, he's like, yeah, you got to hide down below. And so when she's sitting up, I'm like, no, and then they got to it, so I was like, oh, yeah, because that was creepy.
And he's so calm throughout the whole thing. It's
yeah.
like he's done this,
yeah.
millions of times.
Yep.
That was something that's really interesting to me. We see his own sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
Like, he believes himself really high up in the ranks.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that he
By
has
other
some
people,
power.
we've heard that.
Yeah, well, but we also get a moment with Nick at the end of the episode with the guy who recruited him, where it's like, so to me, that says, and someone in the chat mentioned this earlier, it suggests that maybe he's not as well protected or insulated as he believes himself to be.
Well, he might be powerful, but not protected.
That's true.
Yeah. So then they kind of jump back to Nick's flashback, and they discuss the ceremony and talk about branding because they're like,
Holy
let's change the name. That whole conversation, it's like, let me vomit now. It was horrible.
I had a flashback to when Trump was in the White House with his... You know what I'm talking about?
That was the exact one. I was like,
had
okay,
a
so this is
flashback.
again too
Tell
real
him.
for reality. Like, we have
Yes.
a bunch of white guys sitting around table being like, oh, because one guy's like, our wives aren't going to go for this. And one guy's like,
Yeah.
that's not a non-issue. Why
like,
are we even
doesn't
talking
matter.
about wives?
Yep.
He's like, we need their support because, again, they're half of the team.
Yeah.
If they don't support us, the whole system goes to, like, shit.
It's too real.
It was, yes, just that. It was like my whole skin was crawling. And then, to your credit again, Nick cowardly. Like, the man asks you a question point blank. And you don't have to disagree with him because I understand you're in a precarious situation. You need a job. You need money. But you might have found a delicate way to suggest,
a polite way.
I don't see how that would work. Don't you think, how do we punish women who don't go along with that plan?
Excuse me, sir.
Oh,
Should we
a lot
think
of
about these
follow-ups.
things?
Jeanette says he's not part of the inner circle, and I'm not really sure how to say it, so sorry. Lindergy is like, that's why he believes he's in the inner circle, because he came up with the name.
It's true.
So it's true. He might think he's higher up than he is, but he's not
Well,
really.
when you're powerful, people support you, but then when you like threaten them, they want to kick you off. You know? It's like dog eat dog
Well, and you have
world,
to
especially
wonder,
in
his
a
wife is so
commander
smart, and she got
situation.
him started in it in the first place,
yeah.
and she's writing books. Maybe he was more successful when
Yeah.
she was involved, and now a couple years later, maybe he's
on
not
his
making
own.
as
Yeah.
many strides, and they're like, well, we don't need him.
So then we have the. It was interesting that the when they first get to the brothel, it's that kind of industrial area. I felt it was more isolated, and then the '80s film, which many people hate. I didn't hate it, but that one kind of felt like it was an isolated place. But still, it's interesting of like how you can visually change. I like seeing that industrial that we haven't really seen that much. And then everybody's human, and talking about that the women there prefer it, and we have a nice collection.
It's good for them. Okay.
Okay, wait. Are you
Okay.
talking about the intellectual women that were there?
Yes.
Okay, this was really the biggest slap in the face for not even just feminists, all females doing anything in life. It was just like, really? Like, the intellectuals are going to be the ones that are forced to be objects in this world? And it's like, those are the women that spent their entire life fighting against that notion, and now they're hookers.
What's crazy to me is that they're desired. You know what I mean?
crazy.
That we talked a little bit, I think, before the show about how, like, this is the nation was founded on Christian values. Like, that's their whole point or moral superiority. We'll go that way.
We'll go hardcore biblical even.
Fundamental.
Yeah. They're yes. So their whole drive is like, we want to eradicate the immorals and create a society where God will smile again, so He will give us babies back. We need those things. They're
Because
the
that
future.
totally works that way.
You know what?
Yeah.
I could like
It's the opposite.
I would have been in that state, but should be like, I come from small town Christian America.
No.
Like so seeing like in the previous 2 episodes where they explore like how does mentally do you get to a place where you're like, we're gonna start a war and a lot of people are gonna be hurt, but genuinely, we believe that long term, this is going to help everyone. And how quickly that goes from an idyllic viewpoint to crushing literally everyone under this system. And then for this idea, like, if that's what you want, or at least if that's what you say you want, then you would think you would want women involved in the society who participate in that actively. And yet instead you glorify, for as long as I'm using, oh gosh, I want to call her Pusey because that's how I know her from Orange is the New Black. Moria, thank you. Moria's word, which is like, as long as the pussy works, like, you can, like the brain suddenly becomes valued. Like, oh, we can have really good conversations if that's the thing that you like.
That was what somebody said.
That's so jacked up. Like, this idea
that
you
your
took
worth.
reading and writing from every other woman, but if she's a prostitute, like, I have feelings and I might want to talk to her, like, after I have sex with her, so she should be smart. What the hell? Like, how confusing is that for women? And it puts them, and again, we're mirroring the real world, so we could just talk about it. Like, this idea that in a patriarchal society, it's constantly pitting woman against woman, like wife against handmaiden,
which,
against Jezebel.
Momentary pause on that. Did anybody notice that? Somebody pointed out in the chat that lovely moment as she's walking by the room of a commander figure, screwing a handmaid who's making out with a wife.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Jesus.
And guys watching.
You guys have become so
like
repressed. You know what's crazy is you become so repressed because you could potentially have this in your own home, but because you guys so suppress your own sexual desires, you have to go out and force other people to do it. And also, like, what? Just because we're there. That hallway scene also really jacked me up because
Which one?
The hallway when she walks out of her hotel room after sleeping with the commander.
Yes.
And she's passing all
hearing
these
the
doors
noises
and hearing all of these. And basically, well, we just saw her be sexually assaulted. Like, she's crying, she doesn't want it, but she doesn't have an option.
Yeah.
Then juxtapose it going from that room where it happens and it wasn't violent, you know what I mean, to hearing all the different ways sexual assault can happen to an individual, and knowing that there's no way you can help anyone behind these doors, and then knowing that it's systematically set up so that it will continue to happen night after night.
I think that the statement that the writers and the book, Margaret was trying to say is that when you suppress human sexuality, nothing good comes from it. And this is all the ugly, nasty things that we're seeing. And I wrote, it creates a perverted, desperate, and demented society.
Absolutely.
And so that's what this whole, episode said to me. And it's kind of like an anti, fundamentalist, anti-religious statement for them to be making. And I thought it was like, yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So then with Moira, a couple little things. One, her costume was even worse in the book, which hers was kind of like I forget if it was a bunny or a cat, similar idea. But I liked how in this they gave her like the see-through shirt, because in that she has like this, the idea of these clothes have been around, so they're not like nice quality. So she has a similar small like leotard thing that's like falling apart, showing more of her like June's just kind of like, oh God, like seeing
you're a
her,
mess. Okay.
like feels so bad. And how they find each other and talk in the bathroom is similar, but the whole conversation is in the bathroom.
Okay.
They never leave to meet somewhere else. And but their embrace in that bathroom was so sweet, and they're crying and like talking about that was so great. She gives her a long speech in the book, and then they go like, here's what happened to me, and it's a similar idea of like try to escape, got there.
Wow.
Something they didn't touch upon, and I'd be curious if you guys think it should have been put in there. June kind of asked, well, this sucks that you're a lesbian and having to have sex with these men.
Oh yeah.
Are you allowed to do other stuff? And Moira goes, yes, it's actually encouraged. And she kind of talks about how like, I totally get to be a lesbian here too. Essentially, I guess she has to be bi because she can have her relationships with women there and it's totally acceptable. And she's like, no, the men encourage it because they want to watch.
Sure.
And I was interested that they didn't include that little, because it was interesting. I like that Moira, even though she's in a really shitty world situation, she still got to express how she would want to
I was gonna say,
sexually.
I feel like Moira feels that she found the best place for her in this new society.
Right.
Not that she's better off, not that she feels lucky, but that
Yeah.
she feels like I couldn't be a handmaid, which we saw earlier. Like, that was just never going to work. To be reporting to one couple, to have one wife looking down on her. It was never going to happen for her that way. And she doesn't want to go out to the colonies, like, because that's just certain death. And, so your skin rots off. That's no fun. But here, she could be here. She was like, yeah, girl, I'm fine. Like, these clothes
food,
are fine.
alcohol, you could be at the woman.
You get drugs.
Yeah, we saw in that drug exchange with Nick and the nurse lady. I call her nurse because she looks like a wartime nurse to me.
She was a...
is that a Martha?
I thought she was a Martha.
Okay,
she was a Martha.
Yeah. We saw the huge drug prescription pill to alcohol exchange.
That was wild.
You know what? I mean, look, it's awful. No one wants it.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to pick up, they're like, you're a woman. You can't be a wife.
You're surrounded by women now.
Let's party every night.
Right? Exactly. I just want
and
nights
we only have to work at nights.
And we only have to work at nights.
Okay, I guess.
We get to choose our own outfits.
And being too much of a literalist, I'm like, well, when she goes, you only got like 3 years before, your pussy wears out kind of idea. I'm like,
your pussy's got to
last longer than that.
Right?
Yeah.
No, it's durable, girl.
It's more like, when are you not attractive?
Oh yeah, it's aging.
Yeah.
And you're a black girl, so black don't crack. You got plenty of time.
There you go.
I feel good for more chances of living for a while longer.
Yeah. Then it was. So, do you think they should have included a little bit of a blurb that she's still able to be a lesbian in this place, or doesn't really matter?
I think it was kind of visible. I think it's one of those instances where what's stated doesn't need what's seen doesn't need to be stated. Like we see girls acting out with other girls, whether it's a relationship or they're performing. It's there, and she does seem in much better spirits than we've seen Moira, other than being when she's free.
Except for she is a complete, I have given up trying to escape.
That's what that scene was about. Yeah.
Emily goes, when Moira gave up, I felt my heart drop.
Yeah, this is the one. This was our ultra feminist.
Mm-hmm.
She really was so hard on Luke, in the flashbacks and all this stuff, and she was like kind of inspired June really to take it up a notch, and now. This is 180. She's done.
She was like the main core of the resistance. And like, even at the Red Center, she was cool.
Yeah, I didn't really feel look, I just know that after a while you have to adapt or you die.
Yeah, I think more of a realist.
Really?
Yeah, like when we saw what happened to a lot of people. Like once that black van rolls up for you, like your attitude changes pretty swiftly. No one wants to go to that place. And she was like, they wouldn't accept me back, and I had 2 choices. So I made what was my best decision. So as challenging as it is, I'm almost happy for Moira in this point, because from the outside it's really easy to say like, no, don't stop fighting, like you can get out, but in a realist version, like it's healthy to find a way to get through each day, as awful as it is.
It's crushing though. I don't know, that hurt, especially my feminist friend is giving up. Fuck. Oops.
I was gonna say we gotta do our thing.
Yes.
So we bring you these awesome programs and shows for free, and so we have a little message for you real quick.
Yeah, Denny's is here being our sponsor today, so thank you, Denny's. Denny's has always been a place where Americans can come and get their favorite breakfast, lunch, and dinner dishes, serving our guests whatever they want, whenever they crave it. And now with Denny's On Demand, we've taken the same always open philosophy that is synonymous with our restaurants and applied to online ordering, bringing access to our craveable dinner fare wherever our guests want it. Thanks to our new platform, guests have a quick and easy way to place a mobile or online order for takeout or delivery of their favorite menu items all day, every day. If having your favorite Denny's dish available at your fingertips 24/7 isn't enough, we've also partnered with Hulu to give our guests a free 60-day trial of the premium streaming service, which is great, guys. Hulu's awesome. And for limited time users who place an order with Denny's On Demand will receive the complimentary Hulu trial and will be able to enjoy their meal while binge watching thousands of hit shows, premium original content, films, and much more. With Denny's On Demand, new online ordering, your dinner favorites are at your fingertips. Visit Dennys.com and click to order online, or download the Denny's app. So do that. Get yourself some free months of Hulu.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good deal.
Just don't binge watch this show, The Handmaid's Tale, because you'll be very depressed. Space it out.
I totally don't remember, but Alexis brings up a good question in the chat. I wonder what happens when a Jezebel woman gets pregnant. I can't remember if they do birth control, you have it to term,
I can't imagine them doing birth control when their whole desire is to have babies.
I think
and they got pregnancy strips. My guess is a similar thing happens of like, and now your baby's born, sew that shit up, get like a week off, and then back at it.
pretty much. Then we get the Nick and Martha scene, and they're all kinds of business. So what did you hate about that one? So that's with
the kitchen scene.
The kitchen, yeah.
Whoa, boy. Okay, men, when a girl is trapped without options, not essentially, actually being raped, do not then blame her or, like, turn your back on her. Like, he was...
It's the worst.
Seething the whole night. He's jealous. It's a challenging... Nobody wants... Like, when you're in a relationship...
I thought the Martha thing was a flashback.
I was not talking about the Martha situation. I'm talking about the final scene.
Yeah.
In the kitchen with Nick and
sorry.
June.
Yeah. I thought, did we have anything else on the Nick and Martha bit where he's just doing the exchange?
Oh, well,
them trying to kiss.
She's like, hey, you want some? And he's like, no. And then she's kind of like...
So then that makes me feel like he kisses everyone everywhere
well,
all day.
This is before, because he turns her down, I think, because that's when he probably started hooking up with June.
This is a flashback? I thought it was that same night.
I don't think this is a flashback. That's the same night. Yeah.
Okay, well, then
he's working that night.
Okay.
And again, as we see, we've seen him like make all of these exchanges throughout the episodes. We see who Nick knows and how he operates. I really enjoyed that scene actually because to me it showed like how does the help get on? Like how do they do?
Yeah.
What was really creepy was the Sleeping Beauty fantasies,
yes.
which really inks me out. But I'm glad the girls are using the pills for their own uses too. But also, oh god, creepy.
Sorry, back just because good points. Jeanette says, I think maybe they want babies from quote-unquote clean women. And then Alexis goes, well, wait, Moira was able, she should be able to have kids because she was at the Red Center.
Yeah,
and
I don't think
she's having all this sex, but I don't know what they do with those babies. I
My guess is that they go to the lower people that are married. Because commanders and stuff get handmaids. There's a limited number of them, and they want to have their own children. Sure, you can't mention impotency, so that's how that works out. Yeah. But I think for the lower people who are married, like, hey, here's a baby, like, she can't keep it. Do you want it? And of course, the only thing you're living for is to have a baby, as we learned. So
you'll take it.
Side note on speaking of pregnancy, who's surprised that June isn't pregnant yet? Because she's getting a lot of sex. She's having sex with Nick a lot. She's with the commander here and there. And then I'm like,
but we've only seen her have sex with Nick once when we're for sure that she's ovulating. And we know
true. We don't know when the cycle is. It just feels like she's having a lot of sex.
We can only know if she has sex with him after she has sex with the commander or right before, because they time their stuff up.
Yeah, but
the commander's shooting blanks, right? I mean,
we assume.
We don't. We have no way. But we have no way.
That was my my assumption. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just was thinking about it like after she had sex with Nick. I'm like, why hasn't she gotten pregnant yet? But
I'm glad Nick has an active sexual life outside of like, you know, his lady hooking him up with the other help.
Actually, sorry, kind of rewind a little bit. When we have the commander and Offred in their room together, it was interesting with his chat. Like, you understand me? He was talking about purges in other locations.
Yes.
And I was like, this is interesting.
Does that mean?
And like, he was worried about having a target on his back. So that was talking to how he isn't necessarily that protected. I don't know if you remember, he was like kind of drunk and telling her like, there's people out to get me.
Yes.
And you're just like, tell me more about these other places.
He said it in passing.
Yeah.
But that kind of makes me feel a little bit hopeful, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe the resistance is moving closer and closer to Gilead.
Then we have the, that was kind of it. Okay, so back to Nick a little bit. Side note, I don't know if I watched the show with subtitles. When she sneaks out and walks down the hallway, when you were talking about the horrible sounds, subtitles said mournful music. So it's just
it was tremendously sad.
It's true,
and
but it's
also
interesting.
Built amazing tension.
It's fun when subtitles are very adjective specific, which they should be. If you are hearing impaired and you don't know what it sounds like, it's just interesting words that you go, I guess it is. Like when you're like figuring out music, you're like, guys, we need mournful music for this scene. What do we find? So back to Nick, we have a little bit more backstory on the Eye and the organization and how that works, which is really kind of interesting. And Price wanting to clean up Gilead. Just creepy.
Yeah. Price, I feel like, is the leader who doesn't know anything. He's like, no, it's totally fine. Like, I'm getting rid of all the bad guys, and I'll make it fine. Kudos to that extras actor. Have we seen him before? The prisoner they were bringing in?
Wait, say it again?
Okay, so when they're outside...
No, that's, hold on. That's the other dude who was in the car. He was the asshole. Goal 3.
Yeah. And
so that was the dude who was thing.
Like... We have this amazing... So Goal 3, I think, is a really interesting character. It's just like... guy who somehow found his way in the movement but is not at all a part of it or a believer. Like, he didn't seem to hold any of the values that those around him did. But he was a good commander, we learned.
Right, that's what they said. He took
New
over an
York,
area. Yep.
Which, you know, okay, sure, valid. It kind of is interesting to me how close our commander is with that guy, like in personality wise. Doing a lot of the same things, sleeping with his handmaiden, for example.
And is Nick gonna say something?
I have a feeling the commander's not long for this world, but I don't know.
Random little bit, when we get the hanging flashback, it was interesting how much Serena was like, what'd you think would happen? And I was like, oh, Serena, you're kind of standing up for them. I was looking for...
Is she, or is she just really inconvenienced at this moment? Because that's what I didn't get, like,
maybe
a
embarrassing.
Sad Serena. I got like you freaking did this, and I want a baby, and you took my baby making machine, and I'm mad about it.
Then real quick note from Adrian. She couldn't make it today, but she wanted to say, tell everyone I am pissed that Moira got caught and has to be a Jezebel, and that Nick's backstory made him even more aggravating to me. So... Thanks, Adrian. She was like, hey, guys, I can't make it, but make sure to tell everybody this is what I thought. And I was like, all right, we will.
We will.
Then we got... Okay, so now it's the scene with Nick and Offred. So the big one. So it starts off almost like cute and awkward. Like, she looks over at him, and her look is denied. And it's like, whoa, we went to an awkward place. Like, she looks at him, and she's like, hey... No.
But he's got a lot of nerve for him to, like, kind of punish her in a way.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
For doing...
Oh, yeah. Her job.
And especially when it's the same thing that he's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's the exact same thing of, like, I have to survive this situation.
Hypocrisy, see?
So what will I do? How will I speak? How will I address people so that I don't end up dead tomorrow?
Yeah.
And for him to put that on her shoulders. On the other hand, someone in the chat mentioned, they're like, look, maybe Nick is just doing the best thing for both of them in this moment, because if they get caught, that's it. There is no life after that. And so I think, and he's in the eye, he knows how dangerous things can be. And she's yearning to be free, which is completely understandable. And she's seen some bad stuff go down. I don't think she has the full extent of range of knowing what could happen to her.
Oh, probably not.
And so I feel a little conflicted, because as frustrating as it is for him to have emotionally put her through that, he can find a better way to say, like, look, for our safety, we need to keep our space.
I think it's more of a selfish act. I mean, I don't know. He seems to be, like you said, you know, a survivalist. I don't know that he's watching out for her at this point.
Very possible.
He wants to keep his cushy job, you know?
Someone in the chat, I can't find it now, but someone in the chat is still holding the hope that maybe he's part of the underground as well. And so he's like a double agent.
You know what? Nick is so well organized, so well connected, and so careful. It wouldn't surprise me if he had connections. But his carefulness makes me also question how involved he could be with the underground. Like, he's so cautious. You'd really have to be a risk taker.
Exactly.
The handmaid who was freaking out, like, about the trade with Mexico a couple episodes ago.
Right, yeah.
She felt like she was part of the underground. She was like, tell me this information. I don't have time. I'm like, girl, you're being loud. Like, tone it down a bit.
Yeah. But how much did we... Sylvia in the chat says Nick is immature.
He needs to find himself.
I wouldn't say he's immature. I just think he's not... approaching this well, especially because they are essentially in a relationship at this point. And I love that she confronts him and is like, no, you are going to talk to me about this. And then he finally kind of does give in and is like, fine, here's my name. But then she's like, well, F to you, because you just essentially broke up with me. And she's like, all right, what did she call him? It was, I forgot now. It was like, but she said a more official, like, title.
I think he's trying
very not personal anymore.
I think he's trying to find himself in you know, in his job and his just in everything. He got recruited when he was so young. You know, you don't like mentally develop till you're like 25. So I think he's like, he was just sucked into this world where you follow authority, you don't question anything, and they sort of mold you. And now maybe he's growing up a little bit, and hopefully, you know, we'll find some sort of middle ground to fight against it.
It's hard for me to see Nick as immature just because he survived so long, and I don't think he can survive in this kind of environment and be immature. I do think that he's just as lonely as June. And that loneliness and that isolation leads to really bad decision making. When you can only trust yourself, you can't invest in other people the way you want to, and I think that's really the issue.
Guardian Nick. No, she called him Guardian Blaine. There we go. By his last name.
His last name.
Kind of on your point, Mama Otter in the chat. It's a fun name.
Love that.
What if Nick is disillusioned by the whole situation and this is not what he thought would happen?
Right.
And maybe he's just as disgusted that what he believed in has been corrupted.
I don't know
Yes.
if Nick ever believed. Did you guys get the sense that he believed? Because even when
No.
he's talking about the Bible, it was one of those matter of fact, like, that's not a thing that's in the Bible,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's a thing that just constantly gets misquoted. The way I view Nick from the information we got from him this episode is that he was a quiet guy who's trying to do the best for his family. He's the person who likes to take care of other people. He's good at it. He's good at knowing what you want to hear. He's good at knowing what you need. And he's good at being quiet. And he used those skills to keep himself safe and employed. And I think what he's wrestling with now is, I see how my complicity makes things worse for people.
Right.
But if I speak up, I could be dead.
Yeah, I like Juju in the chat. Nick is boring.
What?
And
I
then
still
Nick is
have
saved.
hope for Nick. I feel like everyone was
Somebody
like,
else does
screw
too,
Nick.
yeah.
I have hope.
So the last kind of bit in the episode, which is very interesting, in another way, is getting the music box from Serena.
God. What?
So many levels of like, here is my old thing, but I'm giving you something, but it is a box that has a lock. So they were giving, I'm like, well, in a way that's cool to give her something that she can keep like mine and not have it open, like there's no lock on her door kind of probably, but here is a thing you could have that can lock, like having a diary that has a lock. Like here's your thing that's private.
This is
that's
a
yours.
super multi-layered gift.
Oh yes.
I was like, I have
Yeah.
so many feelings. Like, one, it's her cast-offs, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's a treasured childhood thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind
It
of
is
sweet
special.
and sentimental. It is genuinely entertaining when you have no TV and no phone.
Yeah.
Just to be able to listen to the song, even if it's like a 5-second loop of the song.
I have a thing that's that song.
Same. I think I had that exact same music box. I'm like,
I don't have a box. I have a little, but it's still a little ballerina
Okay,
thing.
I had a little ballerina like music box. One that played for Eloise and one played the song, and I was like,
what is this one?
I could not remember for the life of me.
Comment down below. I was thinking about it too. I'm like, I have this, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't remember what it is.
It's inspiring nice things in you. For me, it inspired rage when she gave it to her. I was like,
No, that's
she
what I'm
needs
saying.
to break the mirror and stab her with it. Like I could not see the beauty. I'm so angry for these girls. It's so
Like,
sad.
here's the thing, though, is that we know Serena is smart and...
it comes from a nice place, but maybe it's for Serena to feel better.
I don't know if it comes from a nice place. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's multi-layered to the point where I have no idea what actually is happening here.
Yeah.
Because Serena is beautifully gray in her characteristics. Like, she's willing to enter a sex slave trade, but she also genuinely, like, they have these smiling, the moments of her humanity break through, and you're like, there is a person somewhere in there. I just know it. And in giving this gift, like, it also felt perfectly timed. Like, I was away for a weekend. I know.
Okay.
Serena knows, whether she consciously knows or subconsciously knows, that her husband is sleeping with this girl.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. And the last one killed herself, and I want a baby. I honestly think the gift was more about, please continue to live. Like, just, here's a nice gesture. If I give you one thing nice, maybe that gives you hope for a couple more days.
Two other quick side notes. Oh, the music's from Swan Lake. Thank you, from Mama
Proxy.
Otter. One, somebody pointed out earlier, sorry, I don't forget what it is. She traveled alone, it seemed like. Serena traveled alone. Because
good
Nick
point.
didn't go with her.
Oh, yeah.
The commander didn't go with her. I mean, they have
What
other
are
guards,
you doing,
but still.
Serena? I still like my crazy theory that
Rebel.
Serena is a part of the rebellion, which seems crazy, but now knowing how organized and well thought out she is, maybe. I don't know.
And then to answer your question, Clementine Diva was the music box in the book. I do not remember the music box at all. I'm like, I don't think this was the thing. Serena's even worse in the book. Like, she's older, even more like, I hate you. They never have any kind of bonding moments. Not really.
I like this better because
This makes it hard because you're like, oh, I hate you, but you're not 100% horrible.
Well, she
She's a
feels
victim
like
in
a
her own
real.
right, so yeah.
Yeah.
Well, every woman in this world is a victim, and then
Yeah.
everyone makes choices whether how bad that's going to get. And what I like about Serena's character in the show is she is trying to fulfill something that she actively brought to the table.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like, Serena has to now balance in her head, okay, this is what I said I wanted. Like, looking at her when she pulled those dresses out of the box the first time, and she was like, it was like a sigh of relief, like, order is coming.
Yeah.
Like, I helped start this.
But not the way you think, baby.
But then we see, but previous to them showing that scene, we see her organizing her closet, and it is just the most mundane, kind of drab, like, here are some clothes, I guess, and I don't really like them. And I like that she has to justify constantly her being here, but her still wanting to have ambition and achieve things. And I think that's a really beautiful representation of how the patriarchy can affect even women of privilege.
Everybody in this show, or all the characters, are turning a blind eye. And that's, that's the essence of this society.
Absolutely.
It's kind of crazy.
Chat room definitely agrees that, oh, thank you, Emily. Yeah, the music box wasn't in the books here. I was like, no, I don't think that happened there. So something else, the chat room does seem very mixed on like what is the point of that gift. I like Badass Wanderer says, I think Serena didn't give that gift out of kindness, more like a form of manipulation or a power play.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So yeah, we're pretty much at the end. Do you have any lightning quick predictions?
I really liked the ending of this episode with the "You Are Not Alone." It scared me though, because this was the first place she found a bit of hope, and then had that dashed when the "Don't let the bastards get you down." And she thought originally that perhaps this was something the girl before her had left.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like she was maybe leaving this for the next handmaiden, which to me suggested maybe she won't be around too long.
Yeah.
And that made me sad and a little nervous.
Like a suicide note.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. I need some hope somewhere. You know, I think the
Luke
next
is
episode
out
is
there
going to give
and
us
he
a
cares.
glimmer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to have to change. Otherwise, people, you know, are going to, it's too hard to watch. I think the next one, they sort of on this roller coaster and they give us an ounce of glimmer of hope and then they like slam us with all this horribleness. So I'm ready for, you know, a much more positive episode the next time around.
Don't know if that's gonna happen. I'm like,
I need it.
And I wouldn't say the book is depressing, but it's definitely not like
Hopeful.
Yeah.
And then I do encourage, if you guys watching, if you haven't read the book, I do encourage it. The show has around maybe episode 5 is where it started to like, here's new storylines, which has been great for those of us who read it, because you're like, new stuff. Like the whole ambassador from Mexico never happened, but it's really cool additional world building.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that kind of covers us for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Comment down below on any other topics that you would like to talk more about, or if we missed, or add your thoughts as well. And make sure 5 stars on iTunes. And where can they find your lovely selves online?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, Veronica Bariga on social media at Veronica B online.
I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique. Every week at blackgirlnerds.com. Every Wednesday at Schmoes Know. If you watch the Schmoes, you know Beardo. He has a great show called Don't Be a Beardo. I was on it on Tuesday. He's an amazing conversationalist. We talk about everything from our favorite podcast to what it was like for us in high school, which if you want to hear embarrassing stories, check it out. Also, if you guys like this show, you might also like Genius, which is Nat Geo's first scripted show. It is amazing. We had the executive producers in for this today, right before this show started. So if you haven't seen that yet, go back to AfterBuzz TV, check out Genius episode 6. The executive producers come on, they give us a lot of inside information, and they were a whole bunch of fun to talk to.
Sweet. Well, you guys can find me online at Kari Lane. That's KARIDLANE. And on Mondays, I am on the Sense8 panel with this awesome lady over there. And also Sundays, American Gods and Box Office Breakdown, where we look at the movies that came out over the weekend. And I hope you all are going to go see Wonder Woman. I got my kind of casual Wonder Woman cosplay going on. I got my tickets for Sunday. And then, comment down below. I want to know, do you trust Nick? I feel that's a really kind of pivotal question right now. Comment down below. Do you trust him? Yes or no, and why?
And how would you kill the commander?
Yes, okay. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.